Geologic timescale Archaean Eon. The Archaean Eon. Information about the Archaean Eon. Archaean Eon 3.8 billion to 2.5 billion years ago. The Archaean Eon is the second of four geologic eons of the Earth history. It representing the time from 4000 to 2500 million years ago. The Archean Eon is named after the Greek word for beginning. During this time, the Earth's crust had cooled enough for continents to form and for the earliest non-life to start. Record of Earth's primitive atmosphere and oceans emerged in the earliest Archean era. Throughout the Archean, oceanic and island arc, crust was produced semi-continuously for 1.5 billion years. Thus, most Archean rock are igneous. The oldest rock on Earth, estimated at 4.28 billion years old, are the Fox amphibolite volcanic deposit of the Nuvvuagittu greenstone belt in Quebec and Canada. The greenhouse gas concentration were sufficient to offset a fainter sun. Climate moderation by carbon cycle suggests average surface temperature between 0 Celsius to 40 Celsius, consistent with occasional glaciation. The Archean Eon stromatolites formed by colonies of photosynthesizing bacteria known as cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, lived in shallow water. Here some examples of living organisms appear at the time of Archean Eon. Many shelled brachiopods, gastropods, bivalves, also crinoids, graptolites, sponges, and segmented worms. First multicellular, soft-bodied animal which look like worms, jellyfish and sea plants appeared toward end of Eon. First single-cell organism appeared toward end of Archean Eon, including the first bacteria and blue-green algae. Characteristic of geological time period. The geological timescale (GTS) divides an chronicle Earth's evolutionary history into various periods, from the beginning to present based on definite events that mark a major change in Earth's physical, chemical, and biological features. Major changes in Earth's physical and biological history stretch over several million of years.
Ecology of coral reefs. Coral reefs are wave-resistant structures notable for their great species richness, ecological complexity, and remarkable beauty. They are unique in being formed entirely by the biological activity. Often called rainforests of the sea due to their richest biodiversity. They occupy less than 0.1% of the world's ocean surface but provide home for 25% of marine species. Distribution. Corals occur throughout the ocean, but colonial reef building corals are confined to the tropic and subtropic, where calcification rates are greatly enhanced. Reef grow best in warm marine, shallow, clear, sunny, and agitated water. Coral reef communities. Nutrition. Corals have developed several unique ways of feeding. They receive nutrients from symbiotic algae, capture particles such as plankton, and take up dissolved substances from the water. Productivity of coral reefs. The symbiotic arrangement between the algae and corals result in nutrients being tightly recycled with coral reefs. This internal nutrient cycling is for primary importance in maintaining the productivity of reefs. The gross primary productivity range from about 1500 to 5000 gc per meter square per year, value much higher than those of open tropical oceans. Importance of coral reefs. Protection from coastal erosion. Very highly diversity is equal to ecological stability. Hours from important nutrient chemical being researched as cure from cancer, arthritis, human infections, virus, etc. Reef fishers, tourism. Thank you. Graptolithina. What is Graptolithina? Graptolithina is a subclass of the class Petrobranchia, the members of which are known as Graptolites. These organisms are colonial animals, known chiefly as fossil from the Middle Cambrian through the Lower Carboniferous. The name graptolites come from the Greek graptos meaning written and lithos meaning rock, as many graptolite fossils resemble hieroglyphs written on the rock. General characteristic. Graptolite belong to the phylum Hemachordata. Graptolite are the marine colonial animal which giving three-dimensionally. Some of them were attached to the seabed and many of them were floated freely in the sea. Graptolite derived from Greek word that means writing on rock. They lived from Carbean to Carboniferous time and flourished in sea environment. Size is 6 inch and some of them were up to 30 inch. Scientifically they know as Graptolithina. The early graptolites are used a fossil guide for Plesioic rock. Due to its flatted 3D structure, were hard to identify as fossil. Preserved in the from black carbon film on surface of rocks and in technically disturbed sequence as light gray film. Classes. There are two main classes of graptolites on the basis of their branches. A. Graptolithin. B. Dendritic graptolites. Dendritic graptolites. Dendritic mean many branch graptolites of their order dendroid. There were the benthonic marine animal live or attached to the sea floor and live till the Carboniferous period. Graptolithina. The few branch graptolites there belong to the order Graptopedia were good swimmer pelagic. Graptolithina were survived up to the Devonian period. Morphology. Graptolites consist of the number of branches that it called stips. Stips originated from secula. Individual organism of graptolites join to make the tube-like structure. Handosome, a single colony of graptolites. Theca, each succeeding microorganism is hosted in tree or tube-like structure. Nema. This is a thin tube at larva stage of graptolite that originated from the apex of secula. Aperture. In graptolites, the point end at which the theca point is called operator. Virgula. The spin and the secula end. Dispayment. The bar which connect and act steps into the handosome of dendroid graptolites. Thank you.
Cephalopods. Introduction. A cephalopod is any member of the molluscan class Cephalopoda, such as a squid, octopus, cuttlefish, or nautilus. These exclusively marine animals are characterized by bilateral body symmetry, a prominent head, and a set of arms or tentacles modified from the primitive molluscan food. Fisheries sometimes call cephalopods inkfish, referring to their common ability to squirt ink. The study of cephalopod is a branch of malacology known as phytology. Cephalopods are widely regarded as the most intelligent of the invertebrates and have well-developed senses and large brains. The nervous system of cephalopod is the most complex of the invertebrates, and their brain-to-body mass ratio falls between that of endothermic and ectothermic vertebrates. Captive cephalopods have also been known to climb out of their aquaria, maneuver a distance of the lab floor, enter another aquarium to feed on the crabs, and return to their own aquarium. Cephalopods become dominant during the Ordovician period, represented by primitive nautiloids. The class now contains two only distantly related extant subclass, Chloidia, which include octopus, squid, and cuttlefish, and Nautilidia, represented by Nautilus and Allonautilus. In Chloidia, the molluscan shell has been internalized or is absent, whereas in Nautilidia, external shell remains. About 800 living species of cephalopod have been identified. Two important extinct taxa are the Ammonoidea and Belemnoidea. Evolution of cephalopods. The traditional view of cephalopod evolution holds that they evolved in the late Cambrian from a monoplacophorans-like ancestor with a curved tapering shell, which was closely relating to the gastropods. The similarity of the early shelled cephalopods Plectropnoceras to some gastropods was used in support of this view. The development of a siphuncle would have allowed the shell of these early forms to become gas-filled in order to support them and keep the cell upright while the animal crawled along the floor, and separated the true cephalopods from putative ancestors such as Nitoconus, which lacked a siphuncle. Neutral or positive buoyancy would have come later, followed by swimming in the Plectropnocedia and eventually jet propulsion in more derived cephalopods. In early Plesioic, their range was far more restricted than today. They were mainly constrained to sublittoral region of shallow shelf of the low latitude and usually occurred in association with thrombobolites. A more pelagic habit was gradually adopted as the Ordovician progressed. Deep-water cephalopods, whilst rare, have been found in the lower Ordovician, but only in high-latitude waters. The mid-Ordovician shows the first cephalopod with the septa strong enough to cope with the pressure-associated water, and could inhabit depth greater than 100 to 200 meters. The direction of cell coiling would prove to be crucial to the future success of the lineages. Endogastric coiling would only permit large size to be attained with a straight shell, whereas exogastric coiling, initially rather rare, permitted the spiral familiar from the fossil record to develop with their corresponding large size and diversity.
Gastropods move using a single appendage, the foot. For many gastropods, the power for locomotion is provided by muscular waves moving along the ventral surface of the foot. The force of these waves being coupled to the substratum by a thin layer of pedal mucus. Crinoids. Introduction. Crinoids are marine animals that make up the class Crinoidae, one of the classes of the phylum Echinodermata, which also includes the starfish, brittle stars, sea urchins, and sea cucumber. Those crinoids which in their adult form are attached to the sea bottom by stalk are commonly called as sea lilies, while the unstalked forms are called feather stars or cometulates, being members of the largest crinoid order Cometulida. Age. Crinoids have lived in the world's oceans since at least the beginning of the Ordovician period, roughly 485 million years ago. They may be even older. Some paleontologists think that the fossils called Echimetrocrinus from the famous Burgess Shale fossil site in British Columbia may be the earliest crinoid. Size: elegant feather stars may grow to 20 cm in total length. They are variably colored in yellow to brown and are occasionally variated in yellow and brown. They have 10 long arms with ciliated side branches that taper to a point. Habitat: Crinoidae is a small class of echinoderms with around 600 species. Many crinoids live in the deep sea, but others are common on coral reef. In most extant crinoids, primarily the shallow water ones, there are two body regions, the calyx and the rays. Symmetry: crinoids are echinoderms related to starfish. Gastropods. Introduction: the gastropods, commonly known as snails and slugs, belong to a large taxonomic class of invertebrates with the phylum Mollusca called Gastropoda. This class comprises snails and slugs from saltwater, from freshwater, and from the land. There are many thousands of species of sea snails and slugs, as well as freshwater snails and freshwater limpets, and land snails and slugs. The class Gastropoda contains a vast total of named species, second only to the insects in overall number. The fossil history of this class goes back to the late Cambrian. As of 2017, 721 families of gastropods are known, of which 245 are extinct and appear only in the fossils record, while 476 are currently extinct with or without a fossils record. Gastropoda, previously known as univalves and sometimes spelled gastriopoda, are a major part of the phylum Mollusca and are the most highly diversified class in the phylum, with 65,000 to 80,000 living snails and slug species. The anatomy, behavior, feeding, and reproductive adaptation of gastropoda vary significantly from one clade or a group to another, so stating many generalities for all gastropoda is difficult. Age: the oldest gastropod fossils are over 500 million years old. Fossils gastropods come in all shapes and sizes. Habitat: the class Gastropod has an extraordinary diversification of habitats. Representatives live in gardens, woodland, desert, and on mountains, in small reaches, great rivers and lakes, in estuaries, mudflats, the rocky intertidal, the
Trilobites and brachiopods. Trilobites. Introduction. Ancient arthropods. Trilobites. The body plan. What is trilobites? Trilobites are remarkable hard-shelled segmented creatures that existed over 520 million years ago in the Earth's ancient seas. They went extinct before dinosaurs even came into existence and are one of the key signature creatures of the Paleozoic era, the first era to exhibit proliferation of the complex life form that established the foundation of life as it is today. Ancient arthropod trilobites. Ancient arthropod trilobites were among the early arthropods, a phylum of hard-shelled creatures with multiple body segmented and joined legs, although the legs, antennae, and other finger structure of trilobites. The constituent and extinct class of arthropods, the Trilobita, made up of 10 order, over 150 family, about 5,000 genera, and over 20,000 described species. The body plan of trilobite. Whatever their size, all trilobite fossils have similar body plan, being made up of three main body parts: a cephalon head, a segmented thorax, and a Gedum, tailpiece as shown at left. The body plan of trilobites. However, the name trilobite, which means three-lobed, is not a reference to those three body parts mentioned above, but to the fact that all trilobites bear a long central axial lobe, flanked on each side by right and left pleural lobe. plural, right side rib. Brachiopods. Introduction. What is brachiopods? Structure of brachiopods. What is brachiopods? Brachiopods phylum Brachiopoda are a group of Lophotrochosan animals that have hard valves on the upper and lower surface. Unlike the left and right arrangement in bivalve mollusks, brachiopod valves are hinged at the rear end while the front can be open for feeding or closed for protection. Structure of brachiopods. In this picture, dorsal valve, ganglion, digestive diverculum, stomach, heart, pedicle, nephridium, intestine, no anus, adductor muscle, director muscle, mouth, gonad, ventral valve, and brachium are shown. Structure of
Bryozoan. Introduction, location, predators, age. What is bryozoan? Bryozoan are a phylum of simple, aquatic, invertebrate animals, nearly all living a sedentary colonies, typically about 0.5 millimeters long. They have a special feeding structure called a lopophore, a crown of tentacle used for filter feeding. Location: worldwide bryozoans are found on every continent except Antarctica. Although most bryozoans are marine, one class, Phyolactolemata, live only in freshwater. About 20 freshwater species occurs on our continent. These usually prefer the rather quiet water on lakes, ponds, and swamps, but some live in streams. Predator: Predator of marine bryozoan include sea slugs, nudibranchs, fish, sea urchin, cyanogonid, crustacean, mites, and starfish. Freshwater bryozoans are preyed on by snails, insects, and fish. In Thailand, many populations of one freshwater species have been wiped out by an introduced species of snail. Ages: Marine bryozoans shown up in the fossil record in the early part of the Ordovician period, about 485 million years ago. In Kansas, fossil bryozoans are common in the Pennsylvanian and Permian rocks of the eastern part.
Corals and Echinoids. Corals. Corals are marine invertebrates within the class Entozoa of the phylum Cnidaria. They typically form compact colonies of many identical individual polyps. Phylum Cnidaria, Kingdom Animalia, Subphylum Entozoa, Arenberg 1834. Corals are marine invertebrates within the class Entozoa of phylum Cnidaria. Coral species included the important reef builders that inhabit tropical oceans and secrete calcium carbonate from a hard skeleton. A coral group is a colony of myriad genetically identical polyps. Echinoids. Sea urchins are spiny globular echinoderms in the class Echinoderia. About 950 species of sea urchins live on the seabed of every ocean and inhabit every depth zone, from the individual seashore down to 5,000 meters. The spiral hard shells of sea urchins are round and spiny, ranging in diameter from 3 to 10 centimeters. Phylum Echinodermata. Kingdom Animalia. Subphylum Echinozoa. Echinoderia is a class that belonging to the phylum Echinodermata. Species that belong to the class are the sand trawlers, cake urchins, sea urchins, and heart urchins. Echinoderia have an egg-shaped circular body which is hermiplicable. They have skeleton plates that bear many movable spines and three-jawed pedicircular.
the end of Archaean Eon. The Earth only but a child when viewing the entire geological timescale. What happened at the end of Archaean Eon? During the Archaean Eon, 4 to 2.5 billion years ago, Earth's teenage year, the planet was hotter and had more volcanic eruption. This eon ended with a rise in atmospheric oxygen called the Great Oxidation Event, which has the very beginning of the more mature plate tectonics that we recognize today. What did the Earth look like during the Archean Eon? Archean Eon rocks are often heavily metamorphized deep water sediments such as the grey wax, mudstone, volcanic sediments, and banded iron formation. Volcanic activity was considerably higher than today, with numerous lava eruptions, including unusual types such as cometite. Why is Archean Earth important? Why is it important to look at Archean Earth? Earth's atmosphere has changed over time, and early photosynthetic life had a significant impact on it. During the first billion of years, single celled ancestor of modern day bacteria evolved into primitive photosynthetic organisms that release oxygen into the atmosphere. Thank you. The end.